Dalton to the end zone. It's Robinson for the touchdown.
What's up, everybody? Good morning, almost good afternoon, and welcome into Out of Hibernation. This is USN's Bears pregame show that we do each and every Sunday morning here for you guys. As always, I have to my left Angelo Ace Camacho. What's up, man? How we doing this morning?
What's up, Tar Bill? How you been, man?
Doing well, man. Lots of exciting things have transpired over the last week in Chicago sports, specifically for the Bears, man. It seems the national narrative's really starting to go in Justin Fields' favor for the first time, which is exciting to see.
Yep, absolutely.
As a lot of the non-believers, the Dan Orlovsky's of the world, were very quick to write him off earlier in the season, but now everyone is pro Justin Fields, and it's a good feeling, man. It's a unique feeling to have as a Chicago Bears fan, because we're not typically used to the offense getting any sort of recognition on a national narrative. And all of a sudden now everyone's praising and screaming that Justin Fields could be the answer for this team. So
yeah, we talked about it earlier in the week on Sport Court, where it was just kind of weird to hear, especially like on ESPN 1000, Courtney Cronin's talking about, a juggernaut offense and, oh, don't worry, the Bears will put up points. And it's crazy to think of where this team was even just 6 weeks ago. You know what I mean? We were talking about, is Justin Fields the guy? How much is needed on this team to really get them to the next level? What are they going to use their first round pick for if Fields isn't the guy? And now all of a sudden, you're hearing everybody on national media talking about, give this kid some weapons and the sky's the limit.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a unique situation, but it's a good one for us as Chicago Bears fans to be in.
Absolutely.
Ultimately, it's something we're not used to, as I alluded to, but it's a good place for us to be as fans. I mean, obviously, if the defense can stop the bleeding a little bit, this team could still win some games yet this season. So
if they don't, they're going to have to make it quick, right? Because you play the Falcons today, and then you go on and you got games against the Eagles, the Bills, the Packers, the Vikings still. If you don't win today, they got the Jets, which is, at the beginning of the year, people thought that was a gimme game, but now the Jets are looking a lot better.
Clearly,
so if you don't win today,
right.
It could be a long rest of the year.
So we've got limited time this morning, so I say we go ahead and get right on into it.
Let's do it.
First topic for today's game specifically. Can Justin Fields continue to impress? Averaged the last 4 games, 155 yards passing, 116.8 yards rushing, 13 total touchdowns over the last 4 games. That's a crazy stat.
It is.
To even be speaking to. But Justin Fields, man, he's been electric. He's been kind of a superstar, as some have called him the last few weeks. Do you think Fields can continue to impress today? And do you see him playing at a high caliber, both in the passing and rushing attack?
So I think what's really, really great right now is that all we wanted to see was him put a string of games together, right? And he's proven that over the last 4 games that it's not just a blip on the radar. These are games that he's putting together. They're consistent. His play has been pretty consistent. He has a few, boneheaded mistakes every now and then, but for the most part, I feel like he really is starting to figure out this offense. I think Luke Getsy is making a really good game plan for every week on ways to utilize Fields, letting him go out there and just ball out. You know what I mean? You know, kind of like let Russ cook type of stuff, but I don't
let him go out and play football. And that's exactly what he's doing.
When the play breaks down, I think they're telling him, trust your instinct. If you think you got to go, then go. I think at the beginning of the year, they tried to hold him back and wanted him to be more of a pocket passer. And while he did that a lot in college, I still think that with the lackluster offensive line, not a lot of great weapons around him, I think that this is the best game plan going forward. Check your reads. If they're not there, take off and go get the first down.
Right. And we touched on it a little bit earlier in the week, right? It's all about sustainability. So long term, you look at guys' careers like Michael Vick, for example, towards the end of his career, he became strictly a pocket passer. He wasn't running at the level that he was when he was a rookie his first 2 or 3 seasons in the league towards the tail end of his career.
Yep.
So I'm okay with Justin Fields doing so. He's still young, obviously early in his career. I think that as this offense develops, he'll have less of a need to run the ball as much as he is. But as of now, it's the best plan that we have. Obviously, the offensive line has struggled with the pass tremendously. They're really good run blockers, which is odd. I know it's more difficult to protect against the pass, but it's just so night and day between the run and pass that it's a little bit of an unusual situation. But with that being said, I think you have a guy in Justin Fields who's ultimately a competitor, and he's going to do everything that he can for his team to win on Sunday. So if that means getting 116 rushing yards or, running 2 touchdowns in rather than throwing them in, I don't care. If this guy's consistently putting up 4 touchdowns plus per game, I don't care how he does it. He's out there making the right moves and getting this team to score the ball on offense ultimately. So
what's been really nice to see also is some of these pieces on offense that people have kind of doubted, like Cole Kmet, for instance. All of a sudden, you're looking at a guy who didn't score a touchdown at all last season, and now he has 5 in the last 3 games, and he's the second lead. He's tied for second for touchdowns amongst tight ends this year. So you see a guy like that, they're involving him in the offense. A lot in the beginning of the season, he was used to block mostly, which would hinder his ability to get out there into the open field and try to make any kind of play. But I like to see that. I think that this week we're going to see Claypool get involved a little bit more. I hope so. A part of me feels like they're going to try to force feed him a little bit, and that could lead to some interceptions. But I think that ultimately at this point, I think you have to kind of force him into the offense and get him going so that you can see what you have going forward in the next season.
Quick question for you. Is N'Keal Harry active today?
No, he's inactive.
So I think that says a lot about what this team's trying to do on the offensive side of the ball, especially with Chase Claypool. We have a comment here in the chat from our guy Turtle, Justin Fields equals QB1. I'm glad that he's saying that because, as you know, he was a little bit of a Fields hater earlier on in the season.
Little bit.
So, but no, ultimately, man, nobody expected Justin Fields to kind of flip the light switch as quickly as he has, right?
Well, I mean, if we're being honest, I kind of did. I don't like to toot my own horn.
You did have a tweet out there.
I did have a tweet out there that stated simply that I felt that Justin Fields was going to have a breakout game. And
are you trying to mock me? I kind of understand.
Sure enough, he did have that breakout game, and I don't want to say that I unlocked the keys to this Bears offense, this juggernaut that has become the Chicago Bears, but
you'd love to take credit for it at the same time.
I mean, there it is right there. I tweeted that an hour before the Patriots game. And after that, it's been 30 plus points a game. So
all we needed was Ace to tweet.
I know.
And
I should have did that a lot sooner.
We're scoring 30 plus points.
That's right. I should have tweeted that out week 1, but
No. Ultimately, man, I think it's exciting to see Justin Fields and the level of development that he's made so rapidly, right? He flipped the light switch, so to speak, and Now he's out here doing what he needs to do to put up 30 plus points per game. And a lot of that's due to Luke Getsy and him sitting down and figuring out what's going to work best in the short term. And I give Luke Getsy a lot of credit for that, because Matt Nagy would have never said, hey, Justin, what plays do you want to run?
Right.
Hey, Justin, what works best for you? He would have been like, we're going to cram this square hole into this round peg until the slot's broken and you're not going to run. We're going to do tight end sweep every third play. So,
yeah, and it just didn't. It's nice to see somebody, because you could tell in the beginning of the year they were really trying to force their offense onto this team, right? And it just wasn't working. And then after you had that mini bye against after the Commanders game where people were like, dude, I can't believe this team looks as bad as they look. Then they kind of reevaluated themselves. You know what I mean? They went in there, they like Nagy used to say, self-scouting, and they never did that under him. But it really looks like Eberflus was able to sit down with Fields and Getsy and figure out a game plan that was going to make both of them feel comfortable going forward.
Yeah, our guy AB here in the chat, the mini bye was the reason. Getsy should get a lot of credit for making the adjustments needed to highlight Justin's strong points. Absolutely, that's what I was trying to allude to there. Getsy has definitely done what no other play caller in Chicago history has done, and that's adapt to his quarterback, to the strengths of his players. So for that, I praise him a lot. I think, unfortunately, I'd say we only see Luke Getsy with the Bears again next season, and then after that, he probably moves on into a head coaching role. But
that's a problem I'd love to have.
Right. It's a problem I'd love to have, because that means that he's done exactly what he needs to do.
Right.
Both with the quarterback position and the offense as well.
And usually when that happens, you know, the next guy up is, you know, like a quarterback's coach or something like that, who's already been in that offense, who has familiarity with how to, you know, scheme certain things, and hopefully there's not a massive, you know, hiccup from Getsy to whoever's next.
Right. So looking at this team as a whole, the biggest issue over the last few weeks has been defense. Again, weird to say, right? Not something that we're used to, especially when the Chicago Bears have been known historically for just these dominant juggernaut, as you said earlier, defenses. All of a sudden now it's completely flipped the script, and the defense is the one that's not carrying their weight.
Yeah.
So our next topic for this morning, will the defense stop the bleeding? The defense has been the 31st ranked average of the last 4 games, 32 points per game, 15 total touchdowns allowed.
Yeah.
Can the defense stop the bleeding against a not that great Atlanta team? Can the defense stop the bleeding, and do the Bears come in here and pull out a win because the defense is able to make critical stops?
I mean, Atlanta plays completely different at home than they do on the road. They're a way better team at home. But overall, they have Kyle Pitts, and that's kind of it for offensive weapons.
Right.
Your defense needs to be able to step up sooner or later, right? Because if you can't stop the Falcons, you got no shot at stopping teams like the Eagles, the Bills. We've already seen the Packers game earlier in the year where they struggled to stop Rodgers. And I know the Packers are struggling right now, but Rodgers has that key that just whatever he does against the Bears defense works. I'd like to see them try to figure something out. You know, they're not getting a lot of pressure with the front four. I think they need to start doing a few more blitz, you know, whether it's sending a safety blitz or a linebacker.
Hey, we got Taco
through.
now. All our problems
we got Taco
solved.
now. So maybe he helped. I mean, he can't make it worse, right?
Right.
So anything at this point, you're kind of hoping you throw out there, and it's gonna make some kind of an impact.
For sure, I agree. It's one of these situations where, as I said, we're not used to the defense being the least strong piece of our team, and unfortunately, right now, that's where we're at. But our general manager, Ryan Poles, said he was going to tear this thing down and build it from the ground up, and that's exactly what he's doing. So,
yeah, without a doubt.
You move on from Robert Quinn, you move on from Roquan Smith. Now you're giving some young guys the opportunity to step up and see what they're made of.
And I know people were pissy about that. Oh, you know, you're trading Roquan, this and that. I mean, the defense was trash with both of those guys on it. And
Right.
I would have much rather had the draft picks going into next season than both those guys on the team.
Absolutely agree. But I mean, as I said, he's a man of his word, Ryan Poles. He's definitely torn this thing down. He's giving guys an opportunity, such as Jack Sanborn, you know, an undrafted guy who, hometown kid, somebody that the Bears really were impressed with early on in preseason. And then all of a sudden, hey, your number's getting called. It's your opportunity. So I do like that mentality a little bit. You're giving guys an opportunity who may not have seen the field otherwise.
Right.
But if those guys can step up, we saw it with Sanborn last week. Obviously, there was the penalty that wiped away his interception last week, but ultimately, had it not been for that, the guy's got 2 sacks and a pick on the day. That's pretty damn good for a guy that's an undrafted free agent.
And you know what? There's undrafted free agents every year that come in and they make a splash and they end up becoming good players. You know what I mean? And who's to say that Sanborn can't be one of those guys?
Right. I don't know. I think he was drafted, but a prime example for me with the Bears, Nick Kwiatkowski.
Kwiatkowski.
When he stepped up, man, it was like next guy up mentality off the bench, and all of a sudden he was making big impact plays. And then he goes out to Las Vegas, hasn't really done much out there. But
well, there was when Roquan was on the team, there was talks that, you know, does he fit the defense that the Bears want to run? And I think you can kind of see that with a bunch of different players that play well for a team and then go somewhere else. I think like with Kwiatkowski, maybe it was just the defensive scheme that really helped him and utilized his specialties to make those impact plays. And I'm hoping that they can do the same thing with Sanborn. Maybe right. You know, Smith was a tackling machine, you know, don't get me wrong, but that's because the Bears defensive line was awful. You know what I mean? If your defensive line can't stop anybody and your linebackers have to stop everybody, of course they're going to be tackling machines. You know, and he did more than that, but I do think that you've seen a good flash from Sanborn last week, and I'm really hoping to see if he can take another step forward today.
Right. Is it sustainable is the biggest question. Right. We always go back to that. So can Sanborn string together a few good games here and make himself a household favorite? Maybe I'll be buying a Sanborn jersey by the end of the season.
Hall of Fame? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't want to say that I'm going to shelf my Justin Fields jersey here because I'm probably going to wear that every day for the next 10 years, hopefully. Every game day. But
every game day.
So moving forward, the running back position has been a very interesting one for the Chicago Bears this season. Obviously, Bears first in the league in rushing. Then we get news early this week that Khalil Herbert's going to be out on IR, so that means he's out at least 4 weeks. Coach Eberflus said he feels good that during that time, Herbert will be able to rehab and he'll be ready to go at the end of the 4-week window. But let's look at the stats here. We've got Montgomery, 115 attempts, 434 yards, 2 tutties, 3.8 yards average per carry. Herbert ranked 11th in the league, 108 attempts, 643 yards, 6 yards per carry average, and 4 touchdowns. That's an interesting stat to see in front of me because I didn't realize that Herbert was by far the leading rusher out of him and Montgomery. I mean, I knew that he would probably take the title between the two of them just based on utilization, but I didn't realize it was by 200 yards. I mean, that's significant.
I mean, you're looking at a guy in Herbert who, had he not gotten injured, could have easily gotten over 1,000 yards this year. You know what I mean?
And, absolutely.
And I think that's important to talk about because Montgomery, as much as people love him, he's a free agent after this season. I don't see any scenario where the Bears spend money on a running back, especially when you got a guy like Herbert who's shown that he can carry the load for this running team, for this running game.
Sure.
Sorry.
And I don't know, we've talked about it many times. I'm of the opinion that running backs are expendable. I don't want to say a dime a dozen, but it's the easiest position to hit on. You know, you look at a guy like Khalil Herbert who wasn't even a pick in the first 3 rounds, and he's came out and been very successful for the Bears. So The question here ultimately is, can Ebner help carry the load for the Chicago Bears offense? Ebner so far this season, only 18 attempts, 46 yards, 2.5 average. You can't really hold that to him. With
Right. I mean, especially
the
with
little bit of
Montgomery and Herbert.
utilization.
Right. Especially with those two guys in front of him, he wasn't going to see a lot of field time this year. Now that Herbert's hurt, though, it could be a good opportunity for the offense to kind of see what he has to offer,
Absolutely.
especially if they're planning on moving on from Montgomery.
Yeah, let's see what he's made of. I think you'll see probably a 70-30 split today. He'll get about 30% of the carries. Montgomery will be utilized heavy. With that being said, I think that ultimately it's a good opportunity for him to see the field. And as you said, let's see what he's made of. Hopefully Ebner can come out, and I don't expect him to have 2 touchdowns today and light the world on fire by any means. But if he comes out, he has 60 yards, maybe a touchdown. I think that would be a very good day for a young back who's really seeing his first consistent action in the NFL. So ultimately, we'll see what he's made of. I'm excited to see that, though, because watching a lot of the film from his time at Baylor, he was explosive. He is what he is. He's almost similar to like a Jordan Howard type runner in a way. He's just a stocky bodied guy who's gonna make their one cut, put their head down, hit the hole, and go forward.
I think that's good for this offense. I love Montgomery, right? But he has a tendency to kind of go back and, side to side more than vertical. And I think it costs the Bears a lot of yardage at times. There was a couple games earlier in the year where he could have picked up the first down, but he decided to dance around to try to get more yards, and it ended up costing the Bears the drive, and
oh, absolutely.
I think it's also impressive to note, Herbert's yardage, especially when you have Justin Fields part of that rushing attack. You know what I mean? He's taking maybe not as many carries, but for all intents and purposes, he's running the ball better than any of those three. I know, breakdowns are easier to gain more yards than just handing it off to a running back, but
of course,
still, now I think as the season goes on, you're gonna see the Bears kind of get away from having Fields run it as much. I think they're gonna want to see these other running backs come into play a little bit more.
Yeah, and hopefully it works out, right? That's ultimately, we don't know what we have until we put it out there on display and give it a shot in Ebner. So let's go for it. Hopefully Ebner has a good game today, and next week we're talking about how he's going to light the world up. Not really, but hopefully he plays.
Right?
Hopefully he plays average at least. That's ultimately all we need him to be, is an average running back, and behind David Montgomery and Justin Fields.
I'd like to see Montgomery have a good day.
Number one rushing attack in the league, man. I mean, for better or worse, and obviously a large portion of that's due to our quarterback, but number one's number one, baby. I don't care how you get there. It's still number one. So
we talked about it earlier in the week, right? People were complaining about, Fields passing yards versus rush yards. And it's if the Bears would have pulled out the victory the last 3 weeks,
nobody would be saying anything.
Nobody would have anything negative to say about the yardage. It's all because they lost that people are, I want to see him throw for 300 yards. Failing to remember that there were 2 games where Velus Jones cost them a possession as the offense was starting to go. That other dude, I forget his name. He's not on the team anymore, but he had a fumble when the Bears were moving the ball downfield. St. Brown.
Marset.
Yep. And then St. Brown had a pass that hit him in the hands and went right through his hands that would have extended a drive at the end of the game too. So I think the narrative of the yardage for Fields it's kind of a lazy narrative to me. I think
ultimately he's not missing the plays that he needs to make, right?
Right.
One way or another, he's putting the ball out there in the hands of the receivers.
They have to make the play.
With Equanimous St. Brown, right? 4th and 8 or 4th and 10, whatever it was, you roll out, perfectly designed play, you hit him right in the hands, and he fails to capitalize on that opportunity.
Yep.
Smith Marset with the fumble against the Vikings that arguably cost us the game there. Valus Jones, 2 weeks in a row muffing punts. And
I mean, he wasn't even playing last week. That's how little confidence they have in him right now.
I mean, you look at it overall, it's Justin Fields has been a very efficient passer. That's what it comes down to. He's put the ball in the hands of the receivers when he needs to, and he's given those guys the best opportunity to win. However, if your other offensive pieces aren't up to the task of completing the play, that's not on Justin Fields. Ultimately, I don't care how many yards he throws for, as long as he looks good doing it, and he has looked very good. He's been very efficient the last 4 weeks.
He really has been.
So, not a lot of volume, but the body of work that we have seen has been very efficient.
Yep.
So before we get out of here this morning, Ace, and let everybody get on to watching the game, we have one last segment that we do each and every week here on USN's pregame show Out of Hibernation, and let's get into that right now. All right, everybody, each and every week we go through the bare bones, our keys to a Bears victory here on USN's pregame show Out of Hibernation. This week, man, we have a little bit different approach. We've got our 3 up on display for the crowd to see, but let's run through it, man. Obviously, when we talk keys to a Bears victory, very seldom is our offensive juggernaut, as you called him, Justin Fields, not going to be in that conversation.
Yep.
But we've got Justin Fields as our number 1 key to victory today. We need to see him play a strong game, play the way that he's played the last few weeks, come out, be, I don't want to say loose, but be electric, just play football, not think too much, progress through his reads the way that he needs to. And ultimately, we need to see 3+ touchdowns out of Justin Fields in this offense today for this team to have a chance at winning, because we know the defense can't stop a cold right now. Ultimately, we need to see that trend of, 28+ points to continue if this team has a chance to win today. What's your thoughts?
You know what
Ace?
I would like to see from Fields? You're on the road, right? So it's already going to be a hostile environment. I'd like to see him take some shots, right? Take some chances, throw the ball downfield. The crowd's already against you, right? So the worst case scenario is you get an interception, whatever. At this point in the season, we've seen him utilize his legs. We've seen him, hit the check downs and all that stuff.
Right.
I'd like to see him, and I know it all depends on the offensive line, but I'd like to see him take the opportunity to push the ball downfield a little bit more.
Oh, absolutely agree. I think, you see a lot of teams do it. They come out on first down. You think it's a running situation. They go play action and they throw a 30-yard, 40-yard dart down the field and try to make magic happen.
Right.
I would love to see the Bears do something like that. I think with the utilization of Chase Claypool and him getting more comfortable in this offensive scheme, we will start to see that. I don't know how many shot plays we'll see today. 2 or 3 maybe, realistically. But I would love to see it. They come out rather than a nice quarterback run to the left side for 12 yards for the first play of the game. I would like to see them come out and maybe take a shot on the first play.
I'd love to see the first play like a play action. You know what I mean?
Establish your dominance early, right? Is what it ultimately comes down to. Don't be afraid to take shots and don't be afraid to push the ball downfield.
Absolutely.
So moving forward, number 2, the defense. As I said, man, this defense cannot stop a cold right now. Unfortunately, this defense has looked horrendous over the last few weeks. I mean, they're getting beat at every faucet. The only bright spot this defense has is the secondary.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the secondary can't do everything. The front 7 have not been able to stop the bleeding. They're getting beat on the pass. They're not doing as bad against the rush. A lot of that just from guys being in the correct spots and making key tackles. But even then, I mean, they're improving against the rush a little bit. I'll give them credit for that, but ultimately, passing defense has just been horrible these last 4 weeks. And as I said, the secondary can't do it all. You've got a very young and bright secondary back there. Eddie Jackson's back to being the ball hawk Eddie Jackson that we all knew he could be. But ultimately, man, it's frustrating now that our offense has gotten it together. We see this team just like it's 3rd and 5, and I know they're not going to stop the other team. That's the point that we're
it's
at
frustrating
right now.
for sure.
Frustrating.
Especially since, like we talked about, the next few games, they're against some really good quarterbacks, right? You got Jalen Hurts, you got Josh Allen, you got Aaron Rodgers again, and I really think.
And you've got Zach Wilson. Don't forget him.
Yeah, Zach Wilson.
I sleep with my friends' moms.
I think we need to see some creative play calling from the defense today. And I'm not saying that they got to be fantastic, but start putting together some kind of consistency, like we talked about with the offense, right?
Right.
If it's 3rd and 9, you have to get off the field. You know what I mean? You can't let a 3rd and 9 turn into a 22-yard play. That's so defeating.
And it happens all the time.
Right, and it happens all the time. You need to kind of put your balls on the table and get off the field today.
I like that. Put your balls on the table. Man, it's so frustrating. Like, I'm going to go back to a Matt Nagy quote here, and I'm going to say, find your identity. What's your identity on defense right now?
Right.
What are you known for? Can you tell me?
No.
Probably not.
You know what they're known for? Not getting off the field.
Right.
That's what they're known for.
Giving up 28 plus points per game.
Right.
So just be consistent at something, right? Is ultimately what I want to see today. Even if it's just solely focusing on 3rd downs and getting off the field, do it and do it well. Hopefully, fingers crossed, man, that this Bears defense can have, I don't even want to say a good game today, but just a game that
if they can hold the Falcons to 25 points or less, the Bears will win this game.
I would agree. And last but not least, we had to put him up here after the 1-point differential. Yes, last week cost the Bears the chance to win the game. Our guy Cairo, been good as gold, so to speak. Very consistent. Misses an extra point last week, which obviously ultimately cost the Bears the game, right? Sure, Justin Fields could have not thrown that pick. They could have scored another touchdown. It wouldn't have came down to it. But in all reality, this is the NFL, and it's a game of inches, right? And sometimes it comes down to 1 point, as it did for our Chicago Bears last week against the Detroit Lions in that heartbreaker of a loss. So we need Cairo Santos to be consistent today. We need him to hit every extra point, and we need him to be good on his field goals from 40 or less for sure.
I mean, you're in a dome. There's no reason he should have any problems today. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I almost feel bad even talking about him because he has been so good this season, last year as well. His body of work collectively as a Bear has been really good, but
it has been. But
you got to make that extra point, buddy.
Right. So you miss that extra point, and now you're playing from behind from that point on, where you have to somewhere make up that point, right?
Right.
And the Bears are not a good 2-point conversion team. They just haven't proven to be that at all this year. And I know Eberflus likes to go for 2 quite often, and I don't like it as early as he goes for it. I understand, going for it when the time calls for it. But if Santos can be automatic today and put the Bears, right there with the Falcons in terms of scoring, I think you'll see a different kind of outcome than you did last week.
Oh, absolutely. I agree, man. Ultimately, all we can hope for as Bears fans is that we get a win today. I don't even want to say that. All we can hope for as Bears fans is that Justin Fields continues to look like the man that he's been the last 4 weeks.
Right.
Win, lose, or draw, as long as Justin Fields develops this season, that's all that matters. And I know a lot of you are going to dislike that comment that hey, we're tried and true fans, we want to win games. Well, as long as Justin Fields looks good and we're moving up, we're moving in the right direction for the future of this franchise, I'm okay if we lose some heartbreakers. I mean, ultimately, the Bears haven't gotten blown out the last 4 weeks. They've been right there until the end of the game. So that to me is more encouraging and shows that we're on the right path when it comes to the development of this young quarterback and this team. So
I do think it is important, though, that eventually in these close games that your offense can find a way to pull that
come out with
victory
one.
out. Yeah, just for confidence purposes for your team, for your young quarterback, for your offense.
Understood.
Just to be like, hey, we've done it now, instead of
We put it on your shoulders and you pulled it out. Yes.
right, instead of, oh well, we probably won't win this game even though we have a minute and a half, 2 timeouts to get ourselves in position to win. We probably won't.
Right.
You want to kind of change that narrative, especially, I hate to beat a dead horse, but with the schedule coming up, it's going to be real difficult to find victories. And I think at this point, for a game like today, it's very important for them to come out with the W.
Fair enough. I like it, Ace. Thank you to everyone that's taken the time to join us this morning. As always, the Packers do suck. I love that.
What's your prediction for today?
Oh yeah, before we get out of here, we got to do that. Man, my prediction is that the Bears win this game. I'm going to say 31-28. I think the Bears put up 31.
Nice.
They win by a field goal late. Cairo comes in clutch, and the Bears pull out a win. What do you got, Ace?
I got the Bears winning 34-24.
34-24, so a 10-point differential.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd love to see it. That's
like I said, if they can keep them under 25 points, the Bears are going to win this game.
I'd love to see it. It's all going to be dependent on what the defense can do today. I think
absolutely.
At this point, I'm not worried about Justin Fields. I hope I'm not biting my tongue next week by saying that, but
I think you have to realize there's going to be growing
defense.
pains no matter what, but I think for the most part, we see the arrow pointing up for this offense.
Oh,
now it's
for
time
sure.
to see the defense step up and help.
Absolutely agree. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. As always, right here on Undefeated Sports Network's Bears pregame show out of hibernation. You can follow me and Ace on Twitter and Facebook, as well as the entire USN crew. We are on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, as well as YouTube. Please be sure to go like, subscribe, and follow for all of the latest content coming out of the Undefeated Sports Network here. We are trying to get more shows out more frequently for you guys so you can enjoy the topics that we are passionate about with us. So with that being said, thank you guys for joining us and have a good afternoon and go Bears.
Go Bears.